You will not believe the destinations where black travelers are running into serious roadblocks. Today we're counting down the top 10 countries where black people are least welcomed. From deeply embedded prejudices to blatant discrimination, these are places where the reality on the ground is far harsher than any travel brochure will ever admit. We're not tiptoeing around anything today. We're talking real racial hostility, documented anti-black attitudes, and destinations where doing your homework beforehand isn't just smart, it could literally keep you safe. Some of what we're about to share might genuinely shock you, especially if you've been considering any of these places for your next trip. Stay with us all the way to the end because the full list might seriously change your travel plans. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap that notification bell so you never miss content that actually matters to black travelers. Number 1, the United Arab Emirates. The UAE gets sold to the world as a glamorous, ultra-modern playground, towering skyscrapers, luxury malls, world-class dining, and desert adventures all wrapped into one dazzling package. But beneath that glittering surface lies a deeply troubling reality for black travelers and residents alike. Studies estimate that over 65% of black workers in the Gulf region have experienced racial discrimination, and the UAE sits squarely at the center of that statistic. For black tourists, the environment can feel just as alienating as it does for workers. Racial hierarchies are deeply baked into the social fabric, shaped by decades of colorism, labor exploitation, and a kafala sponsorship system that has long treated migrant workers, many of them African, as second class. Black visitors consistently report being followed in stores, receiving noticeably poorer service, and being questioned more aggressively by security and authorities than their non-black counterparts. Number 2, South Korea. South Korea has absolutely exploded onto the global tourism scene, riding the wave of K-pop, K-dramas, and a well-earned reputation for incredible street food and cutting-edge urban culture. But step behind that pop culture curtain and black travelers will quickly discover that the country's enthusiasm for foreign influence has some very defined limits. South Korea is one of the most ethnically homogeneous societies on the planet, and that homogeneity has historically translated into real challenges for black visitors. Over half of black expatriates living in South Korea report experiencing racial discrimination, from being refused entry to certain venues and overcharged at businesses to enduring daily microaggressions that chip away at any sense of belonging. Number 3, Russia. Russia carries undeniable cultural grandeur, from the ornate domes of St. Basil's Cathedral to its extraordinary legacy in literature, music, and art. But for black visitors, Russia presents a genuinely dangerous proposition. And we don't use that word lightly. Documented incidents of racially motivated violence against black individuals in Russia are not rare, not isolated, and not exaggerated. African students studying in Moscow and St. Petersburg have for decades reported systematic harassment, physical assault, and deliberate targeting by far-right nationalist groups that operate with troubling visibility in major Russian cities. Even outside those extremist circles, black travelers describe hostile stares, openly offensive comments, and being followed or aggressively questioned in public spaces. Number 4, India. India is one of the most visually spectacular and historically layered destinations on the entire planet. The architecture, the spiritual traditions, the sheer sensory richness of its cities, it is genuinely unlike anywhere else. But for black visitors, India comes packaged with a deeply embedded and well-documented challenge, colorism. And colorism in India is not subtle, and it is not new. India's long historical association of lighter skin with higher social status, intensified significantly during British colonial rule, has created a society where anti-black prejudice operates alongside colorist attitudes toward darker-skinned Indians themselves. Around 60% of black expatriates report experiencing racial discrimination during their time in India. On the streets, black travelers describe being openly stared at, photographed without any permission, and followed in ways that can quickly escalate from merely intrusive to genuinely threatening. Number 5, China. China's rise as a global superpower is one of the defining stories of the modern era, and the country is home to genuinely breathtaking natural landscapes and thousands of years of extraordinary cultural heritage. But that rapid international ascension has not translated into a more racially inclusive environment for Black visitors at home. Not even close. Black travelers in China routinely report being stared at relentlessly, photographed without consent in public spaces, refused entry to certain venues, and treated with open suspicion, particularly outside major metropolitan areas like Beijing and Shanghai. The issue is rooted in decades of state media portrayals that have given many Chinese citizens a distorted, stereotype-driven view of Black people. During the COVID-19 pandemic, African nationals in Guangzhou were subjected to mass evictions, forced testing, and discriminatory treatment so severe it drew formal protests from multiple African governments. Number 6. Libya. Libya rarely appears on conventional tourist itineraries, and for Black travelers specifically, the risks extend so far beyond ordinary travel concerns that a standard cautionary note simply isn't sufficient. This is a country where the situation for Black people has been described by international human rights organizations not as discrimination, but as atrocity. The United Nations and major human rights bodies have documented Black African migrants in Libya being subjected to arbitrary detention in horrific conditions, systematic extortion, forced labor, and in the most widely reported and internationally condemned cases, open auction-style slave markets where Black men have been bought and sold. These are not rumors or exaggerations, they are documented, verified, internationally reported realities that drew global outrage when they came to light. The conditions that produced those situations have not been resolved. Number 7. Japan. Japan is genuinely one of the most magnetic destinations in the world. The extraordinary food culture, the precision and beauty of its cities, the depth of its traditional arts, and the singular experience of moving between hypermodern Tokyo and centuries-old temple towns, there is a reason Japan consistently tops global travel wish lists. But for Black travelers, the country comes with racial dynamics that deserve honest, clear-eyed acknowledgement before you land. Japan is approximately 98% ethnically Japanese, and its deep cultural emphasis on conformity and in-group belonging means any visibly foreign visitor faces friction. But for Black travelers specifically, the experience goes further. Black expatriates report significant difficulty finding housing due to landlord discrimination, and establishments operating unofficial, Japanese-only policies, technically illegal but inconsistently enforced, remain a documented reality. Number 8. Ukraine. Ukraine's profile on the world stage has shifted dramatically in recent years, but even well before its current geopolitical crisis brought it into global headlines, the country had a clear and documented reputation as one of the least racially tolerant nations in Europe. That reputation was not built on perception alone, it was built on consistent, first-hand accounts from Black students, residents, and visitors. African students at Ukrainian universities have detailed widespread discrimination in academic settings, in student housing, and across daily public life. One of the most frequently reported experiences involves being refused entry to public buses and trams, Black riders singled out by drivers and ignored or turned away by other passengers. Ukraine also has a documented far-right ultranationalist movement, some elements of which have been connected to racially motivated harassment and physical intimidation. Number 9. Israel. Israel draws millions of visitors every single year, religious pilgrims, history enthusiasts, and travelers drawn by the extraordinary layered significance of the region. But for Black travelers, and particularly for Black people of African descent, the experience can be considerably more fraught than the tourism-facing image suggests. The Ethiopian Israeli community, Citizens of Israel, has for decades documented systemic discrimination in housing, education, employment, and treatment by law enforcement. These are not fringe complaints. They are sustained, organized, publicly documented concerns raised by an entire community of Israeli citizens. For Black African migrants and asylum seekers, the treatment has at times been even more severe, including prolonged mandatory detention and policies explicitly designed to reduce the African migrant population in the country. Number 10, Greece. Greece closes our list, and for many people, it will be the most surprising entry on it. This is the land of brilliant blue waters, ancient ruins, legendary food, and a hospitality culture that has welcomed travelers for millennia. But racial tensions in Greece have escalated sharply over the past decade, and they have hit black travelers and residents in ways that go well beyond uncomfortable stares or cultural awkwardness. The surge in hostility is closely linked to Greece's position as a primary European entry point for migrants and asylum seekers arriving from Africa and the Middle East. The political and social backlash to that migration has created an environment where black individuals, whether they are migrants, long-term residents, or tourists, can face treatment that is actively hostile. And that is our full countdown, the top 10 countries where black travelers are most likely to face discrimination, hostility, and in some cases genuine danger. Every destination on this list has something remarkable to offer the world, and this video is not about telling you where you cannot go. It is about making sure that when you choose to go, you go informed, prepared, and with a realistic understanding of what you may actually encounter on the ground. Traveling while black means carrying an extra layer of awareness that other travelers simply don't have to think about. Knowledge is the most powerful travel tool you have. Use it before you book, not after you land. If this video gave you something real to think about, hit that like button and subscribe to Roam Free with Marcus for more content that tells the full story without the filter. Drop your own travel experiences in the comments below. If you've visited any of these countries, your perspective matters and we genuinely want to hear it. Stay safe, stay informed, and we will see you in the next one.